The small town of Willow Creek shimmered under the golden glow of autumn, its tree-lined streets awash with crimson and amber leaves that crunched beneath every step. The air carried the faint scent of wood smoke and apple cider from the annual harvest fair, a tradition that drew the tight-knit community together. For Sarah Mitchell, a 38-year-old high school teacher, wife and mother of two, this was homey, a place where secrets were whispered over picket fences and rarely stayed buried long. Sarah trudged up the gravel path to her modest two-story house, her arms laden with a stack of ungraded essays. She waved at old Mr. Henderson, who was raking leaves across the street, his weathered face breaking into a familiar grin. Inside, the warmth of the kitchen greeted her. Her teenagers, Emma and Jake, sat at the table, hunched over textbooks and half-eaten sandwiches. "How was school?" Sarah asked, brushing a strand of chestnut hair from her face as she set her bag down. "Fine," Emma muttered, not looking up. Jake just shrugged, engrossed in his phone. In the living room, her husband Mark sprawled on the couch, the flicker of the television casting shadows across his face. After 15 years of marriage, their routine was as predictable as the seasons comfortable, if a little worn. "Hey, hon," he said, glancing up with a tired smile. "Rough day?" "Same old," Sarah replied, leaning down to kiss his cheek. His cologne mingled with a faint trace of something unfamiliar, something floral she couldn't place. She brushed it off, turning to the pile of mail on the counter. Among the bills and flyers was an envelope with no return address, just her name, scrawled in careful, looping handwriting. Frowning, she tore it open and pulled out a single sheet of paper. The words hit her like a cold wind. "Your husband isn't who you think. Ask him about Lisa." Sarah's breath caught. Lisa? The name dragged her back to memories of high school Lisa Carter, Mark's first love, the girl with the radiant smile who'd left town after graduation. Sarah had met Mark not long after, their romance blossoming in the wake of Lisa's departure. They'd built a life together, a family. Lisa was a ghost, long gone, or so she'd thought. She stole a glance at Mark, still absorbed in the news, oblivious to the note burning in her hand. Her pulse quickened. It had to be a pranksome, petty, small-town gossip gone too far. But doubt took root, sharp and insistent. Over the next few days, Sarah watched Mark more closely. He'd been different, lately distracted, staying late at the accounting firm where he worked, brushing off her questions with vague excuses. He guarded his phone like a treasure, tilting it away when she passed by, his thumbs tapping out messages he didn't explain. One chilly evening, Mark grabbed his coat and headed for the door. "Got a dinner meeting with a client," he said, avoiding her gaze. "New account. Could be big." Sarah nodded, forcing a smile, but her stomach twisted. After he left, she stood frozen in the kitchen, the note's words echoing in her mind. Then, on impulse, she grabbed her keys. Running to the store, she called to the kids, her voice tighter than she intended. She drove to the Willow Creek Cafe, a cozy spot with fogged-up windows and the hum of quiet chatter. Parking across the street, she peered through the dusk. Mark stepped inside, scanning the room not for a client, but for a woman. Sarah's heart sank as she recognized her. Lisa, her blonde hair catching the light, her laugh carrying through the glass as she greeted Mark with a warm, familiar hug. Then, as Sarah watched, Mark reached for Lisa's hand across the table, their fingers lacing together in a way that spoke of more than old friendship. The world tilted. Sarah's hands trembled on the steering wheel, her vision blurring with tears. She drove home in a daze, the image seared into her mind, her husband, her partner, entwined with a past she thought was dead. When Mark returned that night, slipping off his shoes with a casual, "Hey," Sarah was waiting. She stood in the shadowed living room, the note crumpled in her fist, her voice a raw edge of hurt and fury. "We need to talk," she said, barely above a whisper. Mark froze, his brow furrowing. "What's wrong?" "I saw you," her words cracked like ice. "At the cafe, with Lisa. And then there's this." She thrust the note toward him, her hand shaking. "What's going on, Mark?" His face drained of color. He opened his mouth, closed it, searching for an escape that wasn't there. "It's not what you think," he stammered, his voice thin and unconvincing. "Then what is it?" Sarah's voice rose, sharp with betrayal. "Are you having an affair with her?" Mark looked away, his silence louder than any confession. The air between them thickened, heavy with unspoken truths. "Mark, answer me," Sarah demanded, tears spilling down her cheeks. He exhaled, a defeated sound, and ran a hand through his hair. "Sarah, I don't know how to tell you this." Mark's hesitation stretched the silence between them, each second thickening the air with dread. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, her eyes locked on her husband's face pale, drawn and etched with guilt. She clutched the crumpled note in her hand, the words, "Ask him about Lisa," burning in her mind. "Mark," she whispered, her voice trembling, "answer me." He exhaled, a shaky breath, and ran a hand through his hair. "Sarah, I have a son with Lisa." The words hit like a sledgehammer. Sarah's world tilted, the room spinning as she struggled to process what he'd just said. "A son?" Her voice was barely audible, choked with disbelief. "You have a child with her?" Mark nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "His name is Ethan. He's 14. I didn't know about him until a few months ago. Lisa," she reached out. "She's sick, Sarah. Cancer. She needed help, and I couldn't turn her away." Sarah's legs felt weak. She sank onto the couch, her mind racing. A son, a teenager. Mark had a child with Lisa, and he'd kept it from her for months. "So you've been lying to me," she said, her voice hardening. "All those late nights at work, the secretive phone calls it was about him, about them?" Mark knelt in front of her, desperation in his eyes. "I didn't know how to tell you. I was trying to figure things out, to help without hurting you." "Hurting me?" Sarah's laugh was sharp, bitter. "You think sneaking around with your ex and hiding a child from me isn't hurting me? You've been cheating on me, Mark, emotionally, if not physically. How could you?" Mark's face crumpled. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I never meant for this to happen. Lisa's dying. She has no one else. Ethan, he's my son. I can't abandon him." Sarah's anger flared, hot and fierce. "So what? You're just going to abandon us? Your family? Me, Emma, Jakeva? A child you didn't even know existed until now?" "No," Mark's voice cracked. "I love you. I love our kids. I was trying to find a way to help without destroying everything." Sarah stood, her body trembling with rage and betrayal. "Well, you failed. You've destroyed it anyway." She grabbed her coat from the hook, her movements jerky, fueled by adrenaline. "I can't be here right now. I need to think." Mark reached for her arm, but she wrenched away. "Sarah, please." "Don't," she snapped, her voice like ice. "Just don't." She stormed out of the house, the door slamming behind her. The cold night air stung her cheeks, but it did nothing to cool the fire raging inside her. She walked aimlessly, her thoughts a chaotic swirl of hurt and confusion. How could Mark have kept this from her? How could he have a son with Lisa's son he'd hidden for months? Her footsteps led her to the town park, a quiet place where she and Mark used to bring Emma and Jake when they were little. She sat on a bench beneath a street lamp, its soft glow casting long shadows across the empty playground. Tears streamed down her face as she buried her head in her hands, the weight of the revelation crushing her. "Sarah, is that you?" She looked up, startled. Rachel Thompson, her oldest friend in Willow Creek, stood a few feet away, her face etched with concern. Rachel's curly hair was tucked under a wool hat, and she clutched a leash attached to her golden retriever, Max. "Sarah, what's wrong?" Rachel asked, sitting beside her. "You look like you've been through hell." Sarah wiped her eyes, her voice breaking. "It's Mark. He's been lying to me. He has a son with Lisa, his ex from high school, a 14-year-old boy. He's been seeing them behind my back, helping them because Lisa's sick." Rachel's eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God, Sarah! I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry." Sarah nodded, the tears flowing again. "I don't know what to do. I feel like my whole life is falling apart." Rachel wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "You don't have to figure it out tonight. Why don't you come stay with me for a few days? Give yourself some space. Bring the kids if you want, my house is big enough." Sarah hesitated, thinking of Emma and Jake at home, probably still glued to their screens, oblivious to the storm brewing. "I don't know. I can't just leave them." "Mark can handle them for a couple of days," Rachel said gently. "You need time to process this, and honestly, he owes you that." Sarah sighed, the exhaustion settling into her bones. Maybe you're right. As they stood to leave, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her heart skipping a beat when she saw the message from an unknown number. Don't trust Mark. There's more to the story. Meet me at the old mill tomorrow at noon. Her pulse quickened. The old mill was an abandoned relic on the outskirts of town, a place steeped in local law and teenage dares. Who could be texting her? And what else could there possibly be to this already devastating truth? Rachel glanced at her, frowning. Everything okay? Sarah forced a smile, slipping the phone back into her pocket. Yeah, just a work thing. But as they walked to Rachel's car, Sarah's mind raced. Mark's confession had shattered her world, but this message hinted at something darker, something she hadn't yet uncovered. She couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was still to come. Sarah's mind reeled, a chaotic swirl of betrayal and doubt, as she reread the text message. Don't trust Mark. There's more to the story. Meet me at the old mill tomorrow at noon. Her hands shook as she tucked the phone into her pocket, acutely aware of her friend Rachel's worried stare. Sarah, are you sure you're okay? Rachel asked, her voice gentle but probing. You look like you've seen a ghost. Sarah managed a strained smile, her thoughts racing too fast to form a coherent lie. I'm fine, just overwhelmed. Let's get to your place. Rachel nodded, though her eyes lingered with unspoken questions. The drive to Rachel's cottage was silent, the hum of the engine failing to calm Sarah's nerves. By the time they arrived at the ivy-draped house, Sarah had made up her mind. She would go to the mill. She needed answers, no matter how painful they might be. After a sleepless night on Rachel's guest bed, Sarah slipped out at dawn, leaving a note about a morning walk. The old mill lay 15 minutes outside Willow Creek, a crumbling relic surrounded by dense woods and echoes of the town's faded industry. As she drove, thick clouds gathered overhead, casting a grey pallor over the landscape. She parked near the mill's rusted gates, her pulse hammering as she stepped into the chilly air. The mill stood ominous, its shattered windows staring blankly, the wind moaning through its decayed frame. Doubt gnawed at her. Was this a mistake? Who could know more about Mark and Lisa than she did? A figure emerged from the shadows near the entrance, a tall, broad-shouldered man, his face hidden beneath a hood. He approached, lowering the hood to reveal Tom Grayson, Willow Creek's reclusive mechanic and Mark's old high school buddy. His rugged face was set in a grim line, his eyes scanning the surroundings nervously. Tom? Sarah's voice faltered. You sent the text? He nodded, fishing a cigarette from his pocket and lighting it with unsteady hands. Yeah, knew you'd show. What's this about? What do you know about Mark and Lisa? Tom exhaled a cloud of smoke, staring at the ground. More than Mark does, that's for damn sure. Lisa's not who she says she is, Sarah. She's playing you both. Sarah's stomach lurched. Playing us? She's dying, Tom. She has a son, Mark's son. Tom's laugh was sharp and bitter, slicing through the quiet. Dying? Maybe. But that kid Ethan? I'd bet my shop he's not Mark's. The words struck like a blow. Sarah staggered back, her mind scrambling. What are you saying? Tom flicked ash onto the dirt, his voice dropping. Lisa was trouble in high school. Mark wasn't her only guy. Half the football team could have been in the picture. She bolted after graduation, no word to anyone. Now she's back. Sob story about a kid and cancer? Sounds like a hustle to me. Sarah's legs felt unsteady. Why would she lie? What's she after? Money. Guilt. Mark's a sucker for a damsel in distress, always has been. She knows he'll step up, even if it guts you. Tom's gaze locked onto hers, steely and resolute. I saw her a week ago, Sarah, at the diner with some guy. Looked real cozy. Didn't seem like a dying woman. Sarah's thoughts churned. Lisa's tearful confession, her frail appearance, it had all seemed so convincing. But now, cracks formed in that narrative. Why didn't you tell Mark? Tom shrugged. He's blind about her. Always was. Thought you'd see it straighter. Anger surged through Sarah, laced with dread. If this is true, I need proof. I can't just accuse her on your word. Tom pulled a crumpled photo from his jacket and handed it to her. It was a blurry shot of Lisa at the diner, laughing with an unfamiliar man, time-stamped just days ago. Start here. Ask around. She's at the motel on Route 9. Dig, Sarah. You'll find it. Sarah stared at the photo, her hands trembling. The woman in the image looked alive, vibrant, not sick. Could Lisa have faked everything? And if so, why? "What do I do with this?" she murmured, half to herself. Tom stamped out his cigarette. "Up to you. Confront her, tell Mark, or keep digging. But watch yourself, Lisa's desperate people get dangerous." Before Sarah could reply, Tom turned and vanished into the mill's shadows, leaving her with the photo and a tangle of questions. She drove home in a fog, the image searing into her mind. Mark would be back soon. Should she tell him about Tom, face Lisa alone, or follow the lead to the motel? As she pulled into her driveway, her phone buzzed a new text from the unknown number. "Check her car, back seat, you'll see." Her heart thudded as she glanced down the street. There, 2 houses away, sat Lisa's battered sedan. Sarah's breath caught. Whatever was in that car could confirm Tom's story or disprove it. She stepped out, clutching the photo, resolve steeling her nerves. The truth was within reach. But as she moved toward Lisa's car, a figure stepped from the neighboring house. Lisa, pale yet alert, her eyes narrowing as they met Sarah's. "Sarah?" Lisa's voice was taut. "What are you doing?" Sarah froze, her hand inches from the door handle of Lisa's car, as Lisa's voice cut through the crisp autumn air. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Her heart pounded, the photo Tom had given her burning a hole in her pocket. She turned slowly, meeting Lisa's sharp gaze. Lisa stood on the sidewalk, her arms crossed, her expression a mix of confusion and suspicion. "I could ask you the same thing," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Why are you parked down the street from my house?" Lisa's eyes narrowed. "I was dropping off some papers for Mark, about Ethan's school. Not that it's any of your business." Sarah's anger flared, fueled by days of betrayal and doubt. "Actually, it is my business. You've been lying to us, Lisa, about everything." Lisa's face paled, but she held her ground. "Lying? What are you talking about?" Sarah pulled the photo from her pocket and thrust it toward Lisa. "This. You, at the diner, with some guy. You don't look sick to me. Tom says you're playing Mark. Is that true?" Lisa glanced at the photo, her lips pressing into a thin line. "Tom? You're listening to Tom? He's a bitter old drunk who's had it out for me since high school." "Maybe," Sarah said, stepping closer, "but he's not the one sneaking around with my husband. He's not the one who showed up out of nowhere with a son and a sob story." Lisa's eyes flashed with something, or perhaps fear. "I didn't ask for this, Sarah. I didn't ask to get sick. I didn't ask for Mark to be Ethan's father. But he is, and I need his help. If you can't handle that, maybe you're the one with the problem." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "Don't turn this on me. You've been manipulating Mark, using his guilt to get what you want, but I'm not going to let you destroy my family." Lisa took a step forward, her voice low and tense. "You think I want to be here, in this pathetic little town, begging for scraps? I'm doing this for Ethan. He deserves to know his father." Sarah's resolve hardened. She couldn't let Lisa's words sway her, not now. "Then prove it. Prove that Ethan is Mark's son. Prove that you're not lying about your illness." Lisa's laugh was sharp, almost manic. "Prove it? What? You want a DNA test? Medical records? Fine, I'll get them. But you're grasping at straws, Sarah. You're just scared of losing Mark." The jab hit home, but Sarah refused to back down. "Maybe I am, but I'm not the one hiding something." As Lisa opened her mouth to retort, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it, her focus locked on Lisa. But the distraction gave her an idea. "If you're so innocent, let me check your car, right now." Lisa's eyes widened. "My car? What the hell for?" Sarah's pulse quickened. "Just humor me. If you've got nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem." For a moment, Lisa hesitated, her gaze flicking to the sedan. Then she shrugged, her voice tight. "Fine, go ahead, waste your time." Sarah didn't wait for her to change her mind. She yanked open the back door of the car, her eyes scanning the cluttered seat. A pile of papers, a half-empty water bottle, and a child's backpack, nothing out of the ordinary. But as she reached to move the backpack, her fingers brushed against something wedged between the seats, a folded document. She pulled it out, her breath catching, as she unfolded it. It was a medical report, dated 2 weeks ago, with Lisa's name at the top. Sarah's eyes skimmed the page, her heart sinking with each word. Patient, Lisa Carter. Diagnosis, Stage 3, pancreatic cancer. Prognosis, 6 to 12 months. The paper trembled in her hands. It was real. Lisa was sick-dying, just as she'd said. Sarah's throat tightened, guilt and confusion washing over her. You weren't lying about the cancer." Lisa's voice was quiet, almost resigned. "Number I wasn't." Sarah looked up, meeting Lisa's weary gaze. For the first time, she saw the exhaustion etched into Lisa's face, the faint shadows under her eyes. "Then why the secrecy? Why the diner meeting?" Lisa sighed, leaning against the car. "The man in the photo is my doctor. We were discussing treatment options. I didn't want Mark to know how bad it is yet. He's already doing so much." Sarah's anger deflated, replaced by a hollow ache. I'm sorry, I didn't know." Lisa nodded, her expression softening. "I get it. You're protecting your family. I'd do the same." For a moment, the two women stood in silence, the tension between them easing. But as Sarah handed the medical report back to Lisa, her eyes caught on another document peeking out from the backpacker faded envelope with the words, "Paternity test results," scrawled across it. Her heart skipped a beat. "What's that?" Lisa's face went pale. "Nothing, just old paperwork." But Sarah's instinct screamed otherwise. She reached for the envelope, but Lisa grabbed her wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "Don't." Sarah wrenched her arm free, her voice sharp. "What are you hiding, Lisa?" Lisa's eyes darted to the envelope, panic flickering across her face. "It's not what you think." But Sarah was already pulling the document from the envelope. Her hands shook as she unfolded it, her eyes scanning the page. It was a paternity test, dated 15 years ago, with Mark's name listed as the potential father. The result was clear. Probability of paternity, 0%. Sarah's world tilted. "Ethan, he's not Mark's son." Lisa's voice was a whisper, barely audible. "Number he's not." Sarah's hands trembled as she clutched the paternity test, the stark probability of paternity, 0%, searing into her vision. She faced Lisa, her voice a strained whisper. "Why, Lisa, why did you lie?" Lisa leaned against her car, her face pale and weary, her earlier defiance dissolving. "I didn't want to, but I had no choice." "No choice?" Sarah's tone sharpened, incredulity cutting through her shock. "You've been manipulating Mark, making him believe Ethan's his son. How could you do that?" Tears welled in Lisa's eyes, but she held Sarah's gaze. "Because Ethan needs a father. His real father. He's not in the picture. Never has been. And with me dying, I needed someone for him. Mark was the only one I knew who'd step up." Sarah's anger wavered, a flicker of pity piercing her resolve. "But why, Mark? Why not tell him the truth from the beginning?" Lisa wiped her eyes with a shaky hand. "Because the truth is messy. Ethan's real father, he's not dependable. He's not good. Mark's kind, steady. He'd be a real dad, even if Ethan isn't his by blood." Sarah's thoughts churned, grappling with Lisa's reasoning. Who is Ethan's real father, then? Lisa's gaze dropped, a shadow of fear crossing her face. "It doesn't matter. He's not part of our lives." That hint of dread in Lisa's voice sent a chill through Sarah. "It matters to me. If you're pulling my family into this, I deserve the full story." Lisa shook her head, lips tight. "It's better if you don't know. Trust me." "Trust you?" Sarah snapped, her patience fraying. "After all this, number I'm done with secrets." She stepped closer, her voice low and fierce. "Tell me who Ethan's father is, or I'll tell Mark everything right now." Panic flashed in Lisa's eyes. "You can't. Please, Sarah. Mark's already bonded with Ethan. It'd destroy him." "Then give me a reason not to," Sarah pressed. Lisa sighed, a sound of surrender. "Fine, but you have to swear not to tell Annie and not Mark, not anyone in town." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "I swear." Lisa's voice fell to a whisper, as if the name itself carried danger. "Ethan's real father is Tom Grayson." The revelation struck Sarah like a blow. "Tom? The mechanic? The one who warned me about you?" Lisa nodded, her expression grim. "Yes, we had a fling after high school before I left Willow Creek. But Tom, he's not father material. He's got a temper, drinks too much. I couldn't let Ethan grow up with that. Sarah's mind reeled. Tom had tipped her off about Lisa's lies, but he'd hidden his own stake in this. Was he protecting Ethan or himself? Did he even know? Does Tom know? Sarah asked, her voice faint. No, Lisa said quickly. I never told him. I didn't want him near Ethan. Sarah's pulse quickened. Tom had been playing her, feeding her just enough to stir trouble without revealing his own secrets. She needed answers. I have to talk to him. Lisa grabbed her arm, desperate. No, Sarah. If Tom finds out, he might try to take Ethan. I can't lose him. Sarah pulled free, her determination solidifying. I won't tell him about Ethan, but I need to know what he's really up to. Ignoring Lisa's protests, Sarah marched to her car and drove to Tom's garage on the outskirts of town. The faded sign swayed in the breeze, and the air smelled of grease and steel. Tom was there, bent over a workbench, his back to her. Back so soon? He grunted without turning. Sarah's fists clenched. Why'd you really warn me about Lisa, Tom? What's your angle? He straightened, wiping his hands on a rag, his eyes narrowing. My angle? I was helping you. Lisa's trouble, you saw that. But you left out your part, didn't you? Sarah's voice shook with fury. You didn't mention you and Lisa were together, that you might have a reason to want her gone. Tom's face hardened, a storm brewing in his eyes. What are you driving at? Sarah drew a steadying breath. Ethan, he's your son, isn't he? The accusation hung heavy between them. Tom froze, his shock palpable, then his features twisted with rage. What the hell are you talking about? Ethan's not my kid. But Sarah caught the tremor in his hands, the doubt flickering in his gaze. Lisa told me about your fling, why she left. She's lied to Mark, but you've got secrets too. Tom's jaw tightened, his tone turning cold. You don't know what you're stirring up, Sarah. You should have stayed out of it. Before she could retort, a sound from the garage's rear snapped their attention. Ethan stood in the doorway, his face ashen, eyes wide with betrayal. Mom? His voice broke. Is it true? Is he my dad? Ethan's voice cut through the stifling silence of the garage, trembling with a mix of fear and desperation. Mum, is it true? Is he my dad? Sarah's chest tightened as she saw the raw pain etched across her son's young face. She turned to Tom, whose initial shock had hardened into a mask of fury and disbelief. Tom, say something, she pressed, her voice taut with urgency. Tom's eyes fixed on Ethan, his jaw clenching as he struggled to respond. After a long pause, he rasped, Kid, I don't know. Your mum and I were together once, but she never told me about you. Ethan's fists clenched at his sides, tears brimming in his eyes. So you didn't want me? You just left? No, Tom's voice broke, a flicker of vulnerability piercing his rough exterior. I didn't know. If I had, I don't know what I would have done, but I wouldn't have abandoned you. Sarah stepped forward, her maternal instincts kicking in despite the chaos. Ethan, let's get you out of here. We can talk about this somewhere calmer. But Ethan shook his head, his gaze locked on Tom. I want to know the truth. All of it. Before Sarah could reply, the sound of tires crunching on gravel interrupted them. Lisa's car screeched to a halt outside the garage, and she stumbled out, her face pale with panic. Ethan, what are you doing here? Ethan's voice rose, thick with anger and hurt. I heard them, Mum. I heard everything. He's my real dad, isn't he? Lisa's eyes widened, flicking between Tom and her son. Ethan, it's complicated. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? Ethan's voice cracked, trembling with emotion. By lying to me? By making me think Mark was my dad when he's not? Lisa's shoulders slumped, the weight of her decisions crashing down. I thought it was for the best. Tom wasn't ready to be a father. He had his own demons. Mark is a good man. I wanted you to have that. Tom took a step forward, his voice rough but steady. Maybe I wasn't ready then, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't have tried. You never gave me the chance, Lisa. Tears spilled down Lisa's cheeks, her voice breaking. I was scared, Tom. Scared of losing Ethan to your temper, your drinking. I couldn't risk it. Tom flinched, the sting of her words hitting home. He turned to Ethan, his expression softening. I'm not perfect, kid. I've made mistakes. But if you're my son, I want to be there for you. If you'll let me. Ethan's eyes wavered, caught between the stranger before him and the mother who'd raised him. I don't know what to do, he whispered. Sarah, sensing his need for guidance, spoke gently. Ethan, you don't have to decide anything right now. This is a lot to take in. But whatever happens, you're not alone. You have people who care about you, Mark. Your mum, even Tom. Lisa nodded, wiping her tears. She's right. We'll figure this out together. At that moment, another car pulled up Mark's. He stepped out, his face lined with concern as he surveyed the tense scene. Sarah? What's going on? Sarah met his gaze, the burden of the day's revelations pressing heavily on her. Mark, we need to talk. All of us. Inside the garage, the group formed a tense circle, the air thick with unspoken truths. Sarah took a deep breath and began, laying out everything: the paternity test, Tom's involvement, Lisa's deception. Mark listened, his expression shifting from confusion to shock, then settling into a quiet, simmering anger. When she finished, Mark turned to Lisa, his voice low and controlled. Why, Lisa? Why lie to me? To Ethan? Lisa's response was barely a whisper. I was desperate. I needed help, and I knew you'd be a good father. I didn't think it would hurt anyone. Mark's laugh was sharp and bitter. Didn't think it would hurt? You tore my family apart. You made me question everything. Lisa recoiled, but Sarah reached out, placing a hand on Mark's arm. She made a mistake, Mark, a big one, but she's also dying. Ethan needs stability, and we can't change the past. Mark's gaze softened as he looked at Ethan, who sat curled in on himself, eyes red. You're right. Ethan's what matters now. Tom cleared his throat, his voice gruff. Look, I'm not trying to take anyone's place, but if Ethan wants to know me, I'm here. I'll do right by him. Ethan glanced between Tom and Mark, his voice small. Can I have both? I mean, Mark's been like a dad to me these past few months, but if Tom's my real dad… Mark's face softened, a sad smile breaking through. You don't have to choose, Ethan. If it's okay with your mum and Tom, I'd like to keep being part of your life. Biology doesn't make a family, love does. Lisa nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'd like that, for Ethan. Tom, unusually subdued, simply nodded. Whatever the kid wants. Sarah felt a weight lift from her chest, a spark of hope cutting through the gloom. We can make this work, for Ethan's sake. As they began discussing practicality of shared custody, Lisa's medical care, counseling for Ethan, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her heart skipping at the message from an unknown number. You've uncovered the truth, but be careful. Some secrets are better left buried. A chill ran through her. Who was sending these messages? What other secrets hid in Willow Creek? But as she glanced at the fragile new family forming around her, she chose to keep this mystery to herself for now. They had enough to deal with.